Welcome to the channel. Today I'm reviewing Neuromancer by William Gibson, a staple within the cyberpunk genre, and very interesting if you have started your cyberpunk journey with Matrix, with Cyberpunk 2077, the video game, or the comics, for example. This one is a must read for you. And if you're into fantasy, I think it's a must read too, because there are so many concepts that can be related, especially to modern fantasy. And then I'm especially talking about Malazan Book of the Fallen, even though I probably know that this is not some kind of inspiration for Stephen Erickson, though I know from the interviews I've had with him that Dune is that. So different genres can inspire the other one, and the sci-fi fantasy is of course a common concept, and we know that they can affect and inspire each other. In this review, I will of course talk about what the book is about. I will talk about the author a little bit. I will also talk about my reflections, but I will start with a personal reflection on Neuromancer. I've always known Neuromancer from at least the 90s, when my childhood friend read the books, and he was really into it because Neuromancer is a trilogy or trilogy, the Sprawl trilogy, and he read it very fast and many times in the 8th and 9th grade, and he got really positive perception of AI, for example, and he terrorized the Swedish teacher with writing a lot about Neuromancer and so on. He told me that the Swedish teacher has to tell him or told him that he had to stop writing about Neuromancer, so it's a bit funny. It's also funny or interesting that my friend has read this a lot. It took me many decades then to start to read this book. Neuromancer for me became interesting because my interest in the Cyberpunk 2077 video game, and also I really enjoyed the Blade Runner movies. Maybe you do that too. So I just got curious reading the book, so I ordered all the 3 books, and we have this is the first one, which I read and I'm going to talk about today, and then this is the second book, Count Zero, and then we have the Mona Lisa Overdrive, which is the third, and there is a 4th one, but it's not part of the trilogy, so that consists of short stories. I really enjoy the book, although very confusing from time to time. But I imagine that's how it's to read Malazan Book of the Fallen if you don't have read a lot of fantasy before, and especially if you haven't read mythology before and coming into Malazan Book of the Fallen. It's very confusing, I think, even though this is very different. There are similarities in the writing style as well. Let me come back to that. But what is this book about? We follow a console cowboy, means a hacker, called Case. And we start in Chiba, in Japan, and there we already get this very typical cyberpunk landscape that we can find in Blade Runner, for example. The city lights, the neon lights, the rain, all the sounds from traffic and so on. And we also have the clubs and the pubs and the music, and disco music. I say it's not disco, but the dance music, for example. They have the beats. Repetitive beats. We have all of the technology like cyberware, things like that. All of this is put into this Shiba city of Japan. And we also have a lot of shady, gray characters, characters that are obviously criminal, or maybe they are forced to be criminal, or maybe they are just owned by a company, so they have to commit crime. They have to do things to survive. We have this thing in Cyberpunk with a low class, high class, and we have the technology in that. And We have those who can get access to the technology, and we have those who can't, or if they have to live not a lawful life, so to speak, or everyone is not following the law. People are not that moral, and so on. And as you know, maybe Cyberpunk is a warning sign. It's a dystopian picture of the future. But this is written in the 1980s, and some of the things we read about here is actually existing today. So I think that is interesting. I think it's very interesting to read this in 2026. And maybe if you're younger and you want to have perspective on what people thought life would look like. I think this is in 2020 or something. So some things are correct, some things are not, some things are exaggerated, and it's of course entertainment, this book, so maybe not taking it too seriously, but I think the genre in itself is a warning sign. What can happen if technology roams free, if major companies get a huge power, if the world becomes corrupt, and so on. For this guy, case, the cowboy or the console hacker, the console cowboy hacker, he has been caught early in the beginning with theft. He has committed theft against his current employer. And because of that, they cripple his nervous system, because the company, as I understand it, owns the cyberware that is implemented into the individuals in this world. And it can also be not only cyberware, but other kinds of body implants in the body. But they destroy this. So he has a problem functioning. He's also has drug problems, for example, and he has problem to get money and so on because of that, because he has lost his job. But then he get approached by another company, and they offer him a one-time chance for life, and that is to if he gets employed, they will mend his body. He will get the nervous system fixed, and he also gets a new pancreas, for example. He gets that if he makes a last assignment or last task, heist, I think you call it, right, in English. And they want to target a clan called the Tessier Ash Pool, and that's a kind of AI. I don't want to tell you more about that. He needs to do that to survive, basically. And that is the the base of the story. And the story takes us to many parts of the world, but it also takes us to many parts in the matrix and the cyberspace, so to speak, because people like Case, they can jack in to this matrix. You hear already that, and you definitely know the movie Matrix, I'm sure. As I understand it, the author William Gibson, he gave the cyberpunk world a imagery and a language. And during this time, many concepts here weren't explained. So for me, as a first reader of Neuromancer, I think it's quite good that I don't know so much of cyberpunk yet, even though I have a short story writing project going on during this summer, a cyberpunk writing project. Learn more about that in other videos here on the channel. Because I don't know so much about that, I have to imagine. And I think that's one part of this book, that you have to imagine a lot of what's going on. Even though we now can look at the movies, we can look at the video game and so on, but it's quite good to go into this very blind. So if you come from fantasy and mythology, as many of you here on the channel does, read it without looking up too much. See what happens, see what you think, see how you portray things. For example, certain characters in this book might just be part of a AI or computer. Maybe they are not real people like you and me, for example. So it's difficult to grasp sometimes because they move between the real world and the matrix world, and a lot of people as well. That might be very surprising who they are actually when you come later into the book. There are a few characters here that I really enjoy, and that is Molly. She's a street samurai and racer girl. She's really interesting, I think, as a character, and she drives the story forward. She's the one that meets Case after to give him, or after he's lost his job, basically in the beginning. We also have a Rastafarian guy called Malcolm, which is very funny. Actually, the writing when he speaks is in Rastafarian English, so to speak. So I had to read that aloud to really get it, to understand. When I read it aloud, I got what he said, but if I only read the text, it was difficult. We have other people here like Armitage and a guy called Rivera, for example. All these characters are very confusing characters. They are not so fleshed out. You don't get the idea about their purpose, who they are, sometimes not even how they look like. So, and they know what's happening, maybe, but Case doesn't know what's happening to him. He's just thrown into the story. And from watching other cyberpunk movies and series and so on now recently, I understand that this is a common way to start a cyberpunk story, that the person is a bit surprised but then thrown into this matrix world, so to speak. And I think that is the case here as well. I would also like to say that this book is more on the technical side when it comes to cyberpunk, even though the class differences, the stratification of society, the dependence on big companies, for Case in this case, and dependence on drugs, for example, the commonality or the common occurrence of crime and criminality is obvious here in this book, but still I think it's more to the movie Matrix side, and I know this was a big inspiration. As I said, there are many cyberpunkish terms here, difficult to know. I really enjoyed that. It made me feel like I was in this world. And that makes it, similar to Erickson, that you just have to imagine. It's also similar that the storytelling is a bit jumpy. It's not linear. In a way it is, because we only follow Case basically, but still he and they jumps between different parts of the world and different cyberspace worlds as well. So that can be a bit difficult to follow, almost like a Warren in a way. I think that's interesting, the Warren aspect. I think that could be a very sci-fi-ish thing, and if you haven't read Malazan, please do. It's a fantastic book. I also found it fun that they have old technique and new technique. I mean, this was in the 80s, so when it was written, and they have fax and they have phone, the ordinary phone with the cable. I really enjoyed that. It's also expressions like, the ancient computer or the ancient Sony TV, things like that. I really enjoyed and laughing a bit, and created this really great nostalgic feeling, not being too sci-fi-ish or cyberpunkish, but still with the foot in our world. And I think when you have that in a story, then we also can relate to the story as well. I enjoy that they are traveling a lot. I don't want to spoil that. There is this concept, of course, with sprawl. I should have mentioned that in the beginning. But these cities, there is extreme urbanization, as I understand it. And I think the sprawl in the United States in this book is from Boston to Atlanta, for example. Huge. And within the sprawl, we have all these segmentation, class differences, stratification, social injustices, and so on. I think Gibson just rarely touches on this in the first book, so I'm curious on the second and third book if this will be explored. I also think the focus, I would say, on identity. Who are you? What is human? Um, what why do we live? What do we work for? Things like that is highlighted in Neuromancer, I think, in a very skillful but subtle way. I think the middle part of the book, it can be very confusing. I can guarantee you that I did not understand everything in this book. I will have to reread it. Still, I decided to continue on with the next book. I don't want to explore Neuromancer too much, but I will come back to that. I think William Gibson tied everything together, as far as I can understand, at least in the end. I will not mention that here, but if you find it confusing in the middle especially, don't give up. I think it's very rewarding to come to the end of the book. As I said, there is a lot of philosophy in here, and I think that's one of the reasons, if I tie it back to my childhood friend, why he liked it. He is very skilled in philosophy, for example. So this book highlights a lot of important issues about the human condition, about surviving, I would say, and about trust, of course. Who can we trust? He's thrown into this assignment and task. He has no other choice. He just has to rely on what people tell him and what he's supposed to do. So I think that is very interesting too. So that is my initial thoughts on the Neuromancer and the Sprawl trilogy. I'm curious to hear yours without spoiling as well. Please leave comments here on the community page or in the comments below on this video. If you liked this review, please like, subscribe, and share. And if you enjoyed my take on Cyberpunk, please check out my other cyberpunkish videos. There will be more of them during this week. And also about my writing project. I'm waiting for a few background material that is coming this week, so I'm happy to show you them when they arrive. So until next time, have a great day. And if you haven't done it, I think you should drink some tea. More common in fantasy than in maybe Cyberpunk. Seems like alcohol and drugs are more common, obviously. But I'm drinking a black tea. It's Earl Grey, smoky. So go and get some tea, find a good book, or play a great video game. See you later. Bye.